Well, hello, everybody. I'm JD LaRock, the president and CEO of NFTE, the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, and welcome to our latest episode of Entre News, our recurring interview series where we feature some of the stars of the NFTE universe. And I'm very pleased to have with me today Miri Rodriguez, senior storyteller at Microsoft, partner and chief storyteller at Latin Business Today, and owner of Be Mindful, Be Happy. Welcome, Miri.
Thank you so much, Idea. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. I love NFTE. You know I do.
Well, I know that because I am told that you are one of our most committed volunteers. And, folks watching this series know that the special sauce of NFTE's programs is what our volunteers bring to our classrooms and to our students. They provide advice, they provide support, they provide guidance on the development of students' business plans, and we really couldn't do what we do without people like you, Miri. So thank you for having been such a committed volunteer all these years. Now you have made a career out of storytelling. What does that mean exactly, and how did you get there?
Yeah, I know, specifically brand storytelling, which a lot of people don't understand the difference sometimes because the word became so mainstream in about 4 years ago. But brand storytelling, which is the work that I do, is really around enabling the brand narrative, the story, the origin story of each brand to cement those values that it stands for, the voice, the brand loyalty, the brand love that we want from our audiences. So the work that I do really is around telling the story, reminding audiences why we exist as a brand, why we do what we do. Specifically at Microsoft, I also consult with other brands, but it's really this idea that the story of the brand that is an entity of NFTE, for example, it was born one day, it has a mission, it has friends and foes, and it evolves as an entity. And so that is the story, and it continues to be as long as the brand is alive. So it isn't marketing or communications. A lot of people may think that's what it is. Those are tactics and can be used for tactics, but truly a brand story is really the idea of conjuring emotion through the exchange of information about what the brand does. I actually tell our students, in a lot of students that come to me for mentorship at NFTE, you are the brand. You are the brand of the business that you're trying to sell and you're trying to pitch. So tell that story, the why behind the product, the why behind the idea.
Well, you've just begun to answer this question, but say more about why it's so important for NFTE students and for any aspiring entrepreneur to be a master storyteller. Why is it important for people to know the story behind the business and the story behind the person even?
Yeah, we know the power of story. It's actually before print was available, before books were written. Our community, as humankind, as people, we passed down core values, stories, history, culture through stories, and so it is a powerful tool to keep reminded on how and the why of we exist. And so for students who are trying to understand the best way to connect their business, to pitch it for funding, or even to make it in the market, the story behind that, the why it existed, is the most important tool. People will see the product, they won't know what it's about. They may see the features, but they don't know really what's behind it. I remember when I volunteered a year, there was this one student who actually came up with a grand idea. This was about creating a prenatal to at-home sonogram machine, and her reason was so compelling. It was her personal story and why she decided to. Personally, she could not afford to go to the hospital and get sonograms while she was herself pregnant. And so for me, it was so compelling. And I was like, wow, this is what's going to sell. It's her story. So a lot of times they forget, or they may feel that students, that it's not the important part. It is actually the essential part of why that idea was birthed to begin with.
It's so true. And your answer makes me think about some of our NFTE learners and competitors and champions. And I was thinking about the students I remember the most, and those who pop into my head, I remember not just their businesses, but their stories. So let me give you an example. So, we just had our staff meeting before we're recording this episode, and we were talking about Jose Rodriguez, our 2019 national champion. and his business Tazium, which provides apparel that is helpful for people with disabilities, fidget toy infused apparel, other types of clothing and shoes and implements for people with disabilities. And what makes his story so compelling, or his business so compelling, is his personal story. So he has a brother with autism. When he talks about his business, he talks about his brother being the inspiration for the business, and his brother testing the products. And so that's just a fantastic example of the person's story really making the business powerful and relatable in a way that people can understand in an easy way. I think of Thomas Vo as well, who was one of our top finishers in our most recent competition. So he created a prototype of a warming glove. It's sort of meant to be a self-heating glove.
I love that. I need that. When I lived in Seattle, I really needed that.
Right. And so the reason he needed it is because he used to work construction with his family, and he would wear these gloves, and they were either too bulky and he couldn't wear them because they were too bulky, he couldn't do the construction work, or the heated gloves didn't work so well. So he came up with a prototype that solved that particular problem. And what I remember is the story that inspired the business. So it's such an important point that we need to encourage our entrepreneurs not just to be sophisticated in the domains of building their business and their business plan, but to really be able to communicate and articulate the story. So you are a dedicated NFTE volunteer. What do you do as a volunteer, and why do you think it's important to pass this wisdom about storytelling to the next generation?
I've worn many hats in NFTE. I started as a guest speaker the first year. Then I was invited to come back and do Mentorship 101 for the entire summer for students. So I actually got connected as a business, I don't know what they call it now, but it was basically the business mentor, taking the student from the ideation process all the way to pitch. I have been multiple times a judge in the competitions as well. And, each time for me, it's the opportunity I get to connect with these students that are so bright, and they are so full of incredible ideas that will change the world. This organization for me means so much because it enables that opportunity. I come myself from the slums of Caracas, Venezuela, so I actually relate to a lot of these immigrant stories of people trying to live the American dream here in the United States and not having the means, for example. And so for me, if I had NFTE when I was in school, it would have obviously propelled me in so many multiple ways, I believe. And so I love that we're doing that today for so many students. The storytelling piece, you talk about the memory. Actually, the psychology behind story is that it is 22 times more memorable than any piece of information you will ever share. And so if you're able to succinctly explain your why and your origin story in 5 minutes, even in 10 seconds, you have the audience. You are able to actually connect with the audience at an emotional level. And that is what people remember about you, is that emotionality. And so storytelling in business can and will be open doors that regular decks and regular walking presentations won't do for you. It is the difference between your resume and, putting the data on a resume and information saying I graduated from such and such school with a 4.0 GPA for student versus I graduated, from such and such school with a 4.0 GPA. My parents had to work 3 jobs to get me there, right? And so that extra story part is what makes it more compelling. I had to work 3 jobs to get myself to school. I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to grab a bus. These are the things that make people go, wow, there's beyond the 4.0. There is a story of resiliency. There's a story of desire. There's a story of overcoming challenges. And so it speaks of the character of the person, and it puts it at forefront, the core values that this person has beyond the data and the information.
And I'm so glad that you raised that, because particularly with the students we serve at NFTE, NFTE, I think, is distinctive among entrepreneurship education organizations, and that we're really focused on underserved communities and underserved learners who face a lot of challenges in their lives and their communities oftentimes. And nonetheless, The talent is deep, the ambition is deep, the resilience is there, and that is a compelling part of what goes along with their great business ideas. So thank you for lifting that up. Would you say a word about your other roles? So you have this role at Microsoft,
I
but
do.
you also have the role at Latin Business Today, and you're the
Yes.
owner of Be Mindful, Be Happy. Tell our viewers a little bit about those two roles too.
Absolutely. So for me, I am an entrepreneur as well. So I have a corporate job and I also have different ventures that I do under an LLC. Most recently, Be Mindful, Be Happy. I bought this company from the UK from a yoga instructor during COVID. I was, we were home, everybody was bored. So I was like, what do I do next? We're working from home. We have nothing else to do. And for me, it really became this idea of enabling and expanding mindfulness as I do storytelling as a way of delivering your business. So mindfulness is this being ever present, understanding, you and I are here. We can't be anywhere else. We can't be talking to anywhere else. It's you and I. So let's be here. Our minds could be flooded with more, questions about the future or even the past, but we are here today. So that also enables your success in a way that, it's meaningful. You're present with people that are around you. You can't change where you are physically and the time that you are. So mindfulness has really enabled me to really think through entrepreneurship and business ownership differently, and I teach it to other people, and I'm excited for it. And then the other one is LBT, Latin Business Today. They approached me. I'm part of different memberships and board memberships, but they approached me as a partner, and they say, hey Miri, we want you to come and be the chief storyteller. We want your stories to represent Latina women in the US as an entrepreneur, as a woman in business. And I thought, wow, this is an incredible opportunity for me, especially to represent the people of color community in the United States. Because when people see, people like me, they'll be like, okay, I can do it. Miri wrote a book. Miri owns different businesses. Miri can do this and do that. It's not just it's that she can do this and that. And we are multifaceted people and can do so many things. So yes, I can do it all. I have, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm so many other things, and you can. And so it's this idea that we can do more than what, one track path that we think sometimes is only for us.
Absolutely. And you are not alone, and I think certainly an inspiration to students in our community by doing these multiple things at the same time instead of, sequentially. It can be done. It's challenging. It requires commitment, but it can be done. You talked about teaching entrepreneurship, and I'll wrap up with this question. At NFTE, we talk about entrepreneurial mindset domains, these non-cognitive characteristics that make up an entrepreneur, things like communication and collaboration, critical thinking, the ability to manage risk, the ability to spot opportunities, the ability to be future-oriented. I'm curious, what entrepreneurial mindset domains have been the most important for you throughout your career?
Most definitely communications and creativity. Communications at different levels, so that does include storytelling, but really able to communicate an idea at different levels is very important, because a 5-year-old is not going to think of your business the same way that an executive that you're pitching an idea to will. But however, we serve so many, it's a digital space, it's a digital world, and we serve the world. When your idea is out there, it's serving the entire world, even though your target audience may be a very niche audience. And so really thinking through how you can expand your business eventually. You may think it starts here, but we've seen, and a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that you start with this idea with a specific audience, and then all of a sudden you end up somewhere else where you didn't intend it to go, because it just has a life of its own. So being able to communicate that through your evolving audiences is important, and able to evolve your products and your ideas and your services through those audiences and the why. Creativity is a must. I create, and I have specific time allowed in my calendar every week to just create. That may have an idea that makes no sense and bank it for later on, come back to it, write a story, create a prototype that I may never use or don't think I will use, but I will use later. I've created prototypes where I actually go back in time, and I go and I look at my vault of ideas, and I'm like, wow, this actually is really good. And it enabled me to do something else. So it was the basis for another idea that I had that actually became viable. So allowing yourself this moment the presence, canceling the noise out, and really being with your thoughts and getting to that space of creativity is very important. I call it the child effect. Get back to that child where you were an astronaut and a ballerina all at once, and it didn't matter how you were going to do it, you were just going to do it. So get back to that child state where you can be creative without any limitations in your mind.
I love that. That's such good advice. And I think that, well, I'll just say for myself, I don't take the time I probably need to just think. And that act can be so powerful. Well, thank you, Miri, for all of the advice that you've shared today. Thank you for sharing your story. And viewers, if you have listened to this episode today and you are inspired, please join us as a volunteer to NFTE, because you will get a lot out of it. I suspect that Miri does, and we're grateful to have her as part of our community. So thanks again, viewers, for watching this latest episode of Entre News. Miri Rodriguez, a fantastic volunteer for the NFTE community, a business leader and entrepreneur in her own right. We really appreciate the time you spent with us today.
Thank you.
All right, and stay tuned, because there will be more episodes of Entre News coming up. Take care, everyone.